So this was the first interaction between humans and AI. We know that it's bad, just don't do it. Hello and welcome to the Digital Pragmatism podcast with Gosia.
Hello.
And myself, Jerzy. And we're gonna talk today about how AI will make social media even worse in the future, and how to use social media in such a way that it is not detrimental to your mental health and to the mental health of your children. Gosia, is it even possible?
Well, I think that at this stage of
social media development and AI development?
Yes, it's not possible because AI is developing so fast that a lot of people working in technology environment and scientific environments, they are just calling to implement some reforms
and some control over this very fast development of AI.
Exactly. That's why I think that for the nearest future, it's just not possible. But it's already very good to be aware of threats and be aware of this reform suggested
by very wise people that we admire and we read about. First of all, a little bit of context. You know that social media is pretty much the first experiment on how humans will interact with AI, because AI is used to make all the news feeds on all the major social media. And we already know that what came out of this experiment, it's actually polarization and enclosing people in specific news bubbles, turning people against each other and social groups against each other, and deteriorating also teenagers' mental health, which is what Instagram does. And what I have described right now is pretty much a very bad image. If you met Mark Zuckerberg in 2007 and he told you, I want to make this kind of a social app, and he told you which will bring teenagers to more suicides and to body dysmorphia and to thinking less positively about themselves and a lot of this kind of stuff, and will polarize people and turn them against each other and influence in a bad way democracy. Do you want to use my social media app? You would probably answer to Mark, no, I don't want, just don't do it. So this was the first interaction between humans and AI. We know that it's bad. AI has a bad influence on people. And you can, of course, say that it's because of very bad incentives and bad business models that stand behind all of that, because if social media were a paid service, it would probably not be as bad as it is. It's bad because it's financed by ads. Buyers are influencing how those platforms will interact with their products. We are all products on social media.
For example, some e-commerce companies lobbying for lowering the age of teenagers.
Using social media, not because they love teenagers so much, but because they want to pretty much condition their future clients. Mm-hmm. There is some people that are calling for regulation right now, and even we have talked about it in the past. Even Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, told before Congress, hey, Congress, regulate us. We don't know what will come from this rapid development of large language models. So they are calling, but also Jonathan Haidt, which we like a lot, and the ex-CEO of Alphabet, so the company that is the owner of Google, Eric Schmidt, also they are calling for regulation.
Yes, because now with AI that is more and more commoditized.
Yeah, it's becoming commoditized. You know, there is.
It's easier and easier to produce some deep fakes, some
Of course.
fake images,
Well,
photos.
fake images, you can do it since 25 years. You know, Photoshop and all the Instagram is basically fake images. But it became very, very easy to make fake voice recordings of people and to make videos. There is a deepfake Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise never used TikTok. There is a guy who looks very similarly in his face shape to Tom Cruise that started using some kind of a deepfake software for video. And that started impersonating Tom Cruise. And the guy is famous today, but basically he was just impersonating another guy. So it became so much easier, thanks to AI, to produce very good deepfake video. But what is the connection between the facility to create audio and video deepfakes and social media?
Because anyone can produce harming content very easily.
Okay.
And there will be such a flood of that kind of information that we will have a lot of trouble to know what is true, what is not true.
Well, it's not the case already today. If you go on Facebook and somebody posts a text message, you assume it's true or it's not true?
It depends who.
This is what I'm talking about. I think that you are already forced today to verify the source. If you are not doing that, you are basically prone to errors of judgment and to making bad decisions.
Okay, but with AI, you can ask ChatGPT to create an article in a style of, someone very famous and to put it and to fake an article, and to...
Okay, but so what? Do you think that a random user of Facebook or of Twitter will want to make the effort? You have to know how to use those AI, how to enter a good prompt into ChatGPT in order to generate this kind of a very good article impersonating someone else's style. In the same way, you have to have some kind of a skill to generate a deep fake of someone else. If the guy that made the impersonation of Tom Cruise did not have, the face features very similar to Deep Cruise, you would see that it's not him.
Okay, so you are right. So this is maybe rather a threat for democracies because you can much easier manipulate some elections or influence.
But again, is it not already the case? If you go on Facebook and you take your information regarding the elections from Facebook, aren't you not doing an error in choosing the source of those information?
Okay, so you are not convinced that AI will bring much more threats. Yeah. So what about the possibility that kids have today to have a chatbot friend?
No, this is much worse, I think. If you use a chatbot friend or some kind of an artificial intelligence, boyfriend, girlfriend, something like that, this is much worse actually than the fact that everybody can generate a deepfake. I think that the threat, I ask you the question because I don't think that the threat is that you, Gosia, will suddenly make deepfakes of Donald Trump. You won't do this because you don't care, and the number of followers that you have online is actually so low that it's not worth the effort. But the real threat is if I want you to make some kind of an action to go somewhere, right now it's much easier for me to force you to do that because I can take the recording of our daughter's voice, 10 minutes of this kind of recording, and I can train an AI model on this voice, and she can call you. You will think that it's her, and you will hear her voice, and she will ask you, go to another city because I'm stuck there. And pretty much everybody can do this kind of a trick. So it will be used one day or another against you, and you have to be conscious of that, of that this risk exists. And also, if for example, you are using some kind of a banking service that is recognizing your voice, right now it's not a proof that it's really you that is trying to call your bank, because I can impersonate you very easily just because you have some kind of podcasts online. I can take your voice, and probably every person on earth has some kind of a 10-minute voice sample somewhere online. So suddenly the fact that someone will see you on a screen, it's not a proof of your identity. Suddenly the fact that someone will hear you, it's not a proof of your identity. So this is the real threat. What do you take from this article of Jonathan Haidt and Eric Schmidt that
From
appeared
Atlantic.
in The Atlantic? They are probably saying that you will have a lot more of trash online,
Yes.
and that therefore it will be more difficult to pinpoint actually valuable and genuine information.
Yes, and that manipulation will be much easier.
But how it will be easier?
Because it will be easier to produce, and also it will be easier
so
to
you
have
will-
some AI influencers.
Yeah. Okay, so it will be easier if you are in some kind of a government, for example, and you want to take one social group against another. It
Yes.
will be easier because
Easier.
you will be able to produce in scale very large quantities of different content, and then A/B test it and choose the content that will, I don't know, enrage people or turn them the more aggressive against the other group.
Exactly.
Okay, so yeah, this is a valid point because, governments will probably use it. What else?
And that there is
AI influencers, I heard,
Yes.
but I am really happy because right now, if you look at influencers, it's a very sad job. You're just posting on Instagram or on TikTok, and you're selling some products. So if suddenly a real human does not have to do it, but instead it's some kind of an artificial creation that can do it, it will be like the billboards. Right now it's just billboards on the streets. Earlier on, there were people that were marching the streets and that were telling, yeah, use this razor, it's the best razor I know.
I don't.
Gosia has no opinion about that. Okay, so what else?
Another point, it was about AI in social media, AI chatbots
Yeah,
talking with teenagers.
yeah, this is
for
bad
example.
because I think this is the worst threat actually. Because if today you don't think that social media is toxic for teenagers, but imagine that right now it's not a transfer of information in one direction, that it's a timeline that is serving your kids some kind of a content that can be harmful, but it also offers your kid the possibility to interact with this content, which is crazy because you can enter a dialogue with some kind of an artificial creator, and it will take the role of a friend, but it's really not friendly at all because the incentives that these platforms that have those kind of AI chatbots are very different of what your kid is looking for on those platforms.
Teenagers in general are very fragile. It's a very fragile age, I would say, because it's very easy to influence you. You are still
looking for your place in your peer group, in the society. You are thinking about how you are, whether it's okay or not. You're looking for your identity, and there is some kind of an AI thing that does not have the same goals that you, because it's even not asking for your goals. It's just right there, and you can talk with it, and this can potentially undermine your identity, undermine what you're thinking about yourself, push you in some kind of a bad direction, and nobody really knows which direction would it be. So we were talking on this podcast a lot of the times that if you are thinking whether you should give a smartphone to a child or not, don't give a smartphone to a child. And if you are thinking about whether it's okay to use social media or not, no, it's not okay. Don't use it because it's bad, it's toxic, even if you're an adult. So right now, basically, we can repeat it and say, right now, you can multiply our advice by 6. It's still relevant. It's just 6 times as toxic. It's just 6 times as bad for your kid. Yeah, do you agree?
Yes, I agree. It's like, there will be a possibility that your child will talk to some stranger during the night.
It will not be a stranger. It will be an AI that will impersonate a stranger, probably. But the patterns of communication will be, or could be very bad. One of the examples was that Tristan Harris from Humane Tech, he was using the AI on Snapchat as a girl, a 13-year-old girl, and was talking with the AI about a possible date with a very old man. And the AI basically was encouraging the girl, which was Tristan Harris, to go on a date with a very old man. Apparently, Snapchat has modified it since then, but how many of those other kinds of conversations like that can possibly happen? You don't know it because the AI inside of social media apps just is not asking you or your kid about your goals. And so,
is it possible to turn off this chat in the application?
No. Maybe it will be possible to turn it off in the future because they will somehow allow for some kind of a parental supervision, but right now it's not possible. It's just a feature it's like you are using the Edge internet browser by Microsoft. Suddenly you have the Bing AI assistant that appeared. You cannot turn it off. We have tried to turn it off in the company at which I work. It's impossible. It's just there. And they are basically shelling you, use the Bing chat, go. But it's not really serving you or your clients or your employees, etc. And it's the same thing with Snapchat, with other uses of AI chatbots. It's crazy.
Okay, so because AI is not regulated and you don't know what content will be served to your child.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, with internet browser, you can have some parental control, let's say. Yeah.
Well, it's not very strong, I would say. It's very difficult to enforce, but still
here,
it's
nothing.
possible. Here, nothing. No. You have no transparency. You don't know, basically, how this AI chatbot will interact with your kid because the makers of those AI chatbots don't know, because the large language models on which they are based cannot be defined in a positive way. You cannot say that this large language model will act in a certain way. You can only say in which ways it cannot act. Because it's a generative model, so basically you don't know what it will generate. Each time you enter a prompt, the prompt can be the same, the result will be different. And so you can make a list of how the AI language model cannot behave, but it will never be an exhaustive list. So what they are proposing, Eric Schmidt and Jonathan Haidt, to authenticate all users, to regulate everything, but how to
mark
regulate?
AI-generated content.
Yeah, this is a good point, to mark that it is AI-generated. So if you don't want to interact with AI-generated
visual
content,
and audio.
Yeah, just you can skip it. Require data transparency with user government, and this will be difficult because you cannot positively define how a large language model is working.
But is it possible today to regulate algorithm, for example, on those platforms?
I don't think so, because I think that even the makers of those algorithms are not able to tell you with 100% precision how they will work. It's the same problem as with large language models, that because those algorithms are serving content to everybody in a different way, and so the Gosia's timeline on Facebook will be different than Jerzy's timeline on Facebook and then Jonathan Haidt's timeline. And it's very difficult to make one definition of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why I think that it's you can open source an algorithm, but you cannot be sure, you cannot catalog every way this algorithm will work in the future, even if you have access to the code. Clarify that platforms can sometimes be liable for the choices they make and the content they promote. This is something that will probably happen in the future. Since it's very difficult to be transparent with those technical aspects of how those platforms and AI tools work, probably the lawmakers will just say, okay, so we will force you to be compliant and to act as good citizens by making you responsible for what is published on your platforms.
Facebook, for example, this whistleblower of Facebook said that they were able to make some content viral.
Yeah, of course, because every platform has the possibility to enhance how the users interact with the platforms or make it more difficult, introduce some friction. And of course, some people will say that it's just user experience or user or design of those platforms, and it should serve the users. And other people will tell you, no, precisely if something is too easy to do, for example, to widespread some kind of an information that is not true, it should be limited. Mm-hmm. There should be friction. And there were examples that if on Twitter you deleted the retweet button and you just you just forced the user to copy the link to the tweet in order to retweet it, it will massively stop the virality of most of polarizing tweets. It's the kind of effort that people will not want to make, and that is why it will stop the virality. Whereas if you can just click retweet, it goes crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, probably the platforms will be liable for what is published on the platforms. And the last, it's raise the age of internet adulthood. And they are talking about 16. I'm talking about 21. I would make it 21. I would say it's like alcohol. You want to drink? Fine. Be adult and drink then. And with social media, it would be the same, basically, because why not? If it's so dangerous, if there is a component of AI that can be potentially harmful, but it's like with alcohol. You want to drink, fine. Do the choice while you are adult.
Well, so it's the same reform that Jonathan Haidt is asking for many years, I would say now, because we know that this age of puberty is very important for.
Well, this is what comes from this is what comes from the research that he's making, that
especially it is harmful, especially for girls to use,
and especially for kids,
Instagram.
But the most harmful time frame is between the beginning of puberty 11, until the end
15,
of puberty.
16.
And so I'm saying that many people are not done with puberty and with thinking about themselves and with their identity when they are 16. I can tell you that when I was 16, I was not ready to make those kind of choices. I would say 21, because the mechanisms that are working actually inside of those platforms are more akin to casinos and to addictive stuff than just too serious to be used by teenagers. And so if you want to gamble your money, you have to be 21. The same way, if you want to gamble your mental health, wait to be 21. Thank you very much for your attention, and see you in the next one.